Do 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 do. Oh, you know what? Hey, fraud friends and family. Hey, listen here. Some families pass down recipes, others pass down stories, but this one today, hmm, they found something more profitable to pass down. Now, whether it was smart or not, you guys will have to be the judge of that. But anyway, tune in today because it's another crazy episode where you're gonna say, "How in the world did that happen?" Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
All right. Hey, listen, guys. You kind of heard the intro. Today, we're going to have a little bit of fun with this one because we've got a lot of lessons to learn. And Carol is here. Hey, Carol. And Amber is here. Hey, good to see you live again. Also, we have a special guest this week. We have a special guest. You haven't seen him in a while. I hadn't seen him in a while. And I said to him, I was like, the only way we're going to catch up is if I bring you back on the show. Because we had been, for about 6 to 8 months, we've been, hey, man, let's go. Let's hop on the Zoom. Okay. And we never did it. So I tricked him. I mean, I asked him to be to be here with us today. And you guys are going to love him because he always has good stuff to say. And he's probably the best investigator I know. One of the best investigators that I know, right? All right, so let's just bring them up. There's Thomas and there's Mark Anderson. All right. What's going on, guys?
Not much. Glad to be here. Thanks for tricking me.
Well, and you know what?
Nice to have some elderly advice on the show today.
Thanks, Thomas.
Well, and you know what? Christine, she'll be back, you guys, because I know you're probably thinking, we gotta have Christine because she keeps everybody in line. She'll be back, I think, next week. Not gonna tell you where she is, but she'll be back. She hasn't abandoned us, at least not yet. At least I haven't gotten on her nerves that much yet.
So I think the biggest question here, Rob, is when are you going to change that intro video? Because you've got some old hosts that are on there, you know.
Look, that would require me to actually edit a video, which means never.
No.
Have you seen all the stuff that I do?
You're talking about you take naps, you sleep in. You know, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, I know. Nap. What is a nap? I do take naps. I just don't sleep. Okay. You know what? Here's what we have to do, though. Before we start, we haven't been doing introductions because everybody knows who I am, I think. And everybody knows who Thomas is, so he doesn't count either. But I think we got to do, I think we really do have to do some introductions. So, Thomas, Mark, who are you guys? What are you doing here?
Go ahead, Thomas. Beauty before age.
I was going to say age before beauty. All right, so my name's Thomas Mullenix. I own Revision Management Consulting, which is the logo up here. I'm also a partner in crime with Rob for 21st Century Audit, and we've got the great audit leverage which I have here. I'm just all branded out today. Been doing internal audit, internal controls, and fraud prevention for over 18 years now. So I know I'm at least 18 years old, but I've been doing it, love it, and I love driving all across the country to helping to promote it and take care of things. So that's me.
Very good. I'm Mark Anderson, and as you've already heard, I'm very old, and I haven't been here in a while. I've certainly followed this show for quite a while. I run a company called Anderson Investigative Associates, and we do interview and investigation training and travel around and do that. Spent 40 years You said 18 years, Thomas. Let's see, 40 plus years in the federal in state governments doing investigations and performance auditing, and from that turned it into a career of teaching interview and interrogation skills.
I thought you were going to say you spent 40 years in the federal pen. I was.
I spent a lot of time in the pen, but they let me out every day.
All right, so okay, listen, you guys. Do you all remember during the pandemic when the world shut down and people weren't working? How did that affect you guys? And Amber and Carol, how'd that affect you guys? Did you all get like some sort of furlough from your employer? Were you still getting paid? How did that affect you all?
Mark, go ahead.
I mean, for us in the training arena, it pretty much shut down training. I mean, we do some virtual gigs, but even that was hard to do. So things really kind of shut down, and there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to do a lot. And certainly it affected the clients that I had, where the people were still working, but working from home. So it changed the whole dynamic of that. I was just doing a block on virtual interviewing because so much virtual interviewing started up at that time, because nobody wanted that face-to-face contact. And then we kind of worked a way where even as things got better, people wanted to do the virtual interviewing because it was cheaper and less time consuming, and don't send people on the road. So I think it changed a lot.
Yeah, for me, I was running my own firm at the time, so still, so it kind of shut down. But all of my clients said we still have to have the work done. We just don't know when we can start up again. And then that ended up being 2020 ended up being my best year up to that date, because everybody suddenly had a mad dash of we have to get SOX done, we have to get these audits done, and now we have 2 months to get it all taken care of. So by the end of it, ended up being a good year. But yeah, the first half or a little more than half was difficult. But it helped me because people suddenly realized, oh, you can do remote work. It's that helped open a lot of doors.
Yeah. Now, Amber said she continued to work each day just from home, thankfully. And Carol, we stayed fully employed and transitioned to working from home for the credit union. And Bob says, I was the last to leave the office and have been working from home since. No break in work. So during the pandemic, I had just lost my job right before the pandemic. Now, imagine you're sitting here. I had several interviews lined up. I had a few soft offers too on the table. January came around. I was like, we'll be back to work real quick. And I was real happy. February came around. They said that we need 7 days to stop the spread, 14 days. So now think about this. Some people got furloughed. Some people still got paid. Some people work from home. What about those who were contractors and were let go, didn't have any money? I had zero income coming in.
Yep. So I remember my own consultants right? I said, sorry, I can't pay you. I'm not making anything either. Those are not fun conversations.
Yeah. And so then a lot of people turned to the states because the states had these unemployment programs. And we've covered a lot of them on this program, right? A lot of those unemployment programs. And we now see a lot of PPP loan fraud and stuff like that. Well, that's not what we're going to talk about today. We've got something a little different for you. Close, but a little different. So Carol says some of their branches stayed open, so they just changed how they made it happen. Now, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Now, during the pandemic, the state of Ohio, they had one big mission, right? And that was to get unemployment money to people who desperately need it. They had millions of people out of work. Their system was under pressure. And so here's what they did. They turned to third parties to help manage their overworked unemployment reimbursement system. One company they employed was Deloitte. But you know what Deloitte did? Deloitte said, you know what? We're going to subcontract this work out to much cheaper people so that we can pad our pocket. Oh, I shouldn't say that, should I? I shouldn't say that, but that's what the heck happened.
Don't speak the truth.
Right? So they had thousands of temporary workers and they suddenly had access to a system holding billions of taxpayer dollars. And somewhere in that rush, a little bit of, well, not a little bit of, a whole lot of fraud slipped in. All right.
Yeah. A little bit of fraud, a lot of fraud. I don't know. It might be more efficient use of the money than what the government uses it for, but yeah.
Here's where it gets interesting, though. You guys are going to want to hang on for this one today because Mark and Thomas, they know the story, but this story has more twists and turns than a windmill. It has more twists and turns than a game of Twister.
There you go.
Okay. Let me introduce you to one person. Our first young lady, she was hired as a call center representative. Now, on paper, her job was real simple. It was to help process unemployment claims. Nothing glamorous. But when investigators looked a little closer, they found something unusual. See, not only was she working as a contractor there, but she had also filed for unemployment. And the system flagged her claim as fraud, obviously, because, well, she had a job now. But because of her system access, she went into the system and said, you know what, this fraud flag that's on my own personal claim, let's flip it to off and let's give me some money. So now I'm going to collect money as an employee and I'm also going to collect unemployment too. What do you guys think about that?
As I read this stuff and trying to find because number one, you want to find the nexus of where this stuff started, right? From my reading of the story, that's kind of where this started. So did she do that as a trial on her? And when she saw how easy it was, she said, well, I'm just going to keep doing that. And then she had a little training seminar at work for some of the other individuals that were employed there beyond their level of expertise. I mean, is that your impression from reading it? This is kind of where it started. And this was almost like a, what, self-gratifying trial run to see if this would work?
All right, what say you, Thomas?
I kind of follow along those same lines. I think it was more of, hey, I just got away with this. You see the opportunity, right? When you talk about the fraud triangle, all of a sudden you see this for opportunity. But I know it was a mad dash of hiring, but something tells me if someone even has first off, they submitted a fraudulent claim and then they go in there and turn it off to where it's no longer a red flag. I don't know. The instinct in me says they never did any kind of background check before they hired this person is also my instinct. What else has she done?
Yeah.
Background check. How dare you mention a background check? But wait a minute. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. So let me just add my little 3 cents for what it's worth. Agree with Mark 100%. This was a trial run. And to your point though, Mark, she did have somewhat of a training session at work on how to commit fraud. Not only that though, she kept it in the family. But back to your point. She did a trial run, saw that it worked, and then she spread the good news to everyone else. Now, Thomas, your point about the background check. Well, here's how they avoided background checks. The government, whether local, state, or federal, oftentimes they give government contracts to people. And if you understand how government contracting works, a lot of times it's done to help small businesses. Yep. And so what larger companies will do is they'll win those federal contracts and they'll subcontract out to smaller local businesses. So when Deloitte subcontracted that work out, they put faith and trust in this company to do sufficient background checks. Now, whether you did adequate due diligence to make sure that they did or not, I think the results speak for themselves on that one. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and Rob, you and I both know that the government bidding process is, I'm trying to think of the right term to use. It is not a clear, clear cut, very easy process, and there's definitely a lot of bias that goes into a lot of those bids as well. So you're absolutely right. Mark, are you actually making comments while we're on the show here?
Heck yeah, Mark is
I'm
on it.
I'm trying to teach myself how to multitask here.
But wait, here's where it gets interesting. Well, first let's look at Bob's comment. Bob said saw where an assistant in an attorney's office was the contact for her own garnishment. Guess whose wages did not get garnished? Now, let's think about this in this particular case, though. So we had an overloaded system, and like they should have, they asked for help.
Mm-hmm.
They hired contractors who subcontracted work out. Now, we don't know what the due diligence process was for doing background checks or how strong it was because of all the hands in the cookie jar, like Stephanie said, with no lid. But what we do know is who in the world sets up an information system that allows you to clear your own red flag?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yep.
There are so many IT control failures with this one. It's not even funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the deal. Turns out she could clear her own flags. She did. She started collecting money while also being an employee. Now, turns out she also had the ability to adjust claims on top of being able to release fraud hold, but she could also reroute payments. And so in total, she manipulated more than 200 claims that unlocked nearly $3 million. But it gets worse or better or whatever, depending on what side you're looking at it, right? For her at that moment, it was probably better. It got a little bit worse though. After her contract ended, they didn't cut off her access, leaving her access to the system for weeks. So she still had the keys to the kingdom and she was still approving claims. So think about this. Timely user access reviews, anyone? Was there a huge gap there? That wasn't a gap. That was a whole canyon. That was the...
And it's not even about the annual reviews or quarterly reviews. A very standard termination control is you deactivate access, normally within 24 hours, if not 48 hours, right? It's very, very quick turnaround. That's IT and HR 101 is what that is.
Oh, for sure. What do you think, Mark?
Well, isn't it in fact true? I mean, you made a comment that was a nice way of saying it about Deloitte subcontracting this out. So they subcontracted out, and then the subcontractor subcontracted it again, right? So you got three layers there, and nobody is applying any standards in this situation. So yeah, Deloitte wanted to make their money, but it's pretty clear the other two subcontractors wanted to too. And they were just doing whatever they needed to do that, because there's like no internal control stuff here. You're absolutely right on the IT issue, but there's no separation of duties. The stuff that they could do, the one person could do in the system, is way beyond what they should have been able to do.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so now we've got this one temporary worker who was able to do everything in the system. Okay, maybe not everything. So now you might think to yourself, this is just one rogue employee, and you might just chalk it up to bad luck. But in comes our next person, and her name was Shakara. She worked under not one, but two different identities, to Mark's point about the different subcontractors. So under one subcontractor, she had a username to the system, And then after that ended, she became an intermittent employee for the actual office itself, the state office itself. And so she had another username, same person, different roles, same scheme. The take this time was like 3.6 million. And when you think about this, the state literally rehired the same fraudster under a different name.
That's just
And a
dumbfounding.
reputable woman, because she used her mother's name, which is, that's a stand-up move when you go ahead and use a fraudulent name and throw your mother under the bus.
So, okay. So what Mark is talking about, you guys, is he actually used her mother's name to get a job. Now, here's the thing. You would think, oh, poor mom. No, mom, let her do it. Mom was aware that she was doing it.
What
Like,
did
what?
they say about apples and trees?
Yeah, Yep. Exactly what I was thinking too. Rob, I think you put Bob's comment up there, but you took it off way too quickly. It's kind of like whenever my wife says that I was right and she won't say it a second time. I mean, come on now, give a little credit, right?
Well, Bob said that he think Thomas nailed it based on his observation, right?
There we go. All right, now you can take it back down. Thank you, Bob.
Great job, Thomas.
He also said that's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that Thomas was right about his observation.
that he made an intelligent observation. That's nice.
Wow, feeling in love. Where's Christine? We need to get Christine back in here.
Okay, but wait. So now it gets real personal though, because another worker, woman named Brandy Smith, she manipulated 40 claims worth nearly $600,000. And some of those claims, though, were for her own daughter, a woman named Markia. And so she also did it for other relatives, too. So I guess in this instance, fraud wasn't just her job. It was the family business, right? I mean, can you imagine, though, what the family dinners must have been like with them? Can you pass the potatoes and, oh, yeah, did you unflag my fraud yet? Did you unflag my... That had to be crazy. Okay.
Not just that, but we're only having chicken. Why aren't we having steak? I know what I made you last month.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting though? Okay. In all seriousness, how do you not get to a point where what you're doing, you become so fearful of getting caught? And here's what I mean by this. You were working as a temp worker. That job ended. I don't know if you got fired or not, but let's just say the contract ended. You literally took someone else's identity with their permission, re-signed up for, got another job, got hired again, this time directly by the organization, started committing the same fraud. Hold on, let's take it a step deeper. When they terminated you, you figured out you still had access and continued to use it. Then you told other people about it. This is brazen. Where's the fear?
They didn't.
There was none.
Yeah.
They worked there long enough, and they saw probably totally inept management overseeing anything. They saw the, as Thomas pointed out, that opportunity and the fraud triangle opportunity, and knew nobody was looking at it. So there goes the risk. So let's just jump in and do it. And then it's working so darn good. Let's bring in my friends and my daughter. And maybe I can find some people I hardly know and bring them in too. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Oh, and it's not over yet. But before we get to more, I see my friend Bonita is here. Bonita says Christine looks different today. Oh boy.
How dare you?
I don't know if the audience knows how happy you are that you got your soundboard working again.
I think it's hard to tell, right? It's very hard to tell how happy I am. I'm very happy. Very, very happy. Nada, how long have you been here, Nada? Have you heard this story? This is really, really crazy.
Yep.
But no, okay. So wait. So now it gets a little better or worse because um a gentleman now enters the fraud. We'll call him the recruiter because every fraud scheme needs a hub, right? And that's where my friend Jalil, I don't know Jalil, I'm just saying that. That's where Jalil comes into play. He recruited people to file unemployment claims, and then he connected them with the insiders, Markia and Shakara. And then he took a cut. So he was the middleman taking a cut for everything. Now, his fingerprints are on 151 claims totaling about $2.5 million.
How many claims was that? I didn't catch the number.
444. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. 151 for about $2.5 million.
That's a hard working individual.
Yeah. I wonder what his cut was because that's the total amount, right? And he got a cut and then, but he just facilitated, right? So
He was probably recruited by one of the women that were running this, right? Because they decided we need more, like a Ponzi scheme. We need more people getting in on this. So he went out and recruited. I assume they were recruiting also. And when you diversify, you have to build to scale here. So they were building to scale to bring in a little bit more money. So that they outsourced, they subcontracted the recruiting responsibility. I mean, I would assume that's what was happening because that's where a lot of these came from, was getting people to file these claims, and then they were taking the cut out of that claim.
yeah, yeah. Now, here's where it got interesting for me because the total, let's look at the total here. So taking a step back at the whole scheme, 444 manipulated claims for more than $7 million stolen. Okay, now, when you look at their personal bank accounts, the Shakara young lady, they found that from her bank account, they were able to determine that in 2021, she had over $100,000 in cash that was deposited into her bank account. $100,000. That's it.
So I bet she had other stuff around the house.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of the politically correct way to say this. Those that don't have spend as soon as they get it.
Yep.
So yeah, I think you're right. I think that they didn't. Yeah, it wasn't deposited. They were getting cash or they were getting it through apps, and instead of saving it, for a rainy day in jail, they were spending it, and they were probably blowing it faster. And I'm even willing to bet that there's no assets to claim because they were probably blowing it on junk that actually has no long-term value.
Yeah. So now we said that they kept it in the family. One of the relatives actually got a total of $64,000.
Was that in the benefits? They got benefits. They were one of the ones that filed for the benefits.
Yeah. In ineligible benefits. Yeah.
Yep. Well, of course, you start with family first. There's a friends and family discount, so you bring them into the scheme first, and then when you've used up all your friends and family, now what do we need to do? Well, now we need to outsource and bring some other people in. So I bet there's tons of relatives that were part of this, other than
Yeah.
any that had good enough sense to say no thanks. I don't know.
And I think that's what's so weird to me because when you look, 2.6 million for me, millions of dollars stolen, and your take wasn't enough. eh, Your take was small. I just don't see where it was worth it.
I wonder if
Well,
they, 'cause, was it last week or 2 weeks ago that for the case they were actually very smart with the way they were doing it and doing a good job avoiding the normal red flags for fraud. So I wonder if they were keeping it on the lower amounts per transaction, hoping to stay under the radar. I wonder.
I I don't think I think that it was just a matter of, okay, we're going to get so and so benefits. The benefits amount to this amount, and if I get you that amount, I'm taking my cut of 25% or whatever it is. So I think they were getting whatever they could, and those amounts weren't that high. And what you see is so many of those. I mean, they have X number of transactions they're being charged with, but when I read the documents associated with that, there's a lot more transactions that took place that they still haven't figured out whether they're fraudulent or not. So because you have what, 18 other co-defendants that aren't named, which are receivers of that money and probably the higher level receivers, but we know there's more than 18 people that were receiving it if there was the number of transactions there were.
And here's the other thing that gets me too. Um, Many of the people who receive these funds were probably eligible for unemployment anyway. And a big part of the scheme was upping the amount that they were getting
Yep.
too. Some of it
Get a
was,
little bit
okay,
more.
we were just fraudulent. Yeah. So now you're going to go to jail because you got a little bit more than you were supposed to, probably not a whole lot. What it reminds me of is, do you all remember just a few years ago we had the Chase Bank money glitch that people were talking about? You all remember
Mhm.
that?
Yep.
Yep.
So here's what I don't understand. When you get extra money from something, that ain't a glitch. That money is missing from somewhere. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. The money didn't magically appear, right? Yeah. There's
Yeah.
so yeah.
now, let's get to how this actually got caught because we only know a part of the story. We don't know the whole story. But what we do want to do is give a shout out to the state of Ohio Office of Inspector General. Because what happened was some of the local agencies saw it and said something is wrong. And so they sent the information to the Ohio State Inspector Generals and said, hey, this looks like something. Can you go and investigate it? And they went in and investigated it. And they pulled a lot of receipts, as they say. They even went and got Facebook records. They looked at IP addresses that actually show that these individuals were working together. They the Facebook records, man, that's got to be the biggest one, right? Why are you putting everything on Facebook? Hey, I'm live streaming while I'm committing fraud. So, but
Don't tell. We want them to keep doing that, man.
yeah, yeah. It really does make it easier, though, doesn't it? You know,
Yep. Yep.
it makes it a whole lot easier to commit to find the fraud when they put everything on Facebook. We've used Facebook successfully, especially the last place that I actually worked for somebody. Oh man, I had two people on staff that would find almost any and everything on Facebook, and man, the stories I could tell. Actually, if you want to hear some of those stories, just hire me for training. I give you real good training because we integrate real stuff into it, you know? Um,
To go back to your point about giving credit, yeah, that's a lot of people that did what they're supposed to do. They saw something, they said something, and then whenever they were told about information, they followed through, they did the research. That was tons of hours and work to really identify all of this. And like Mark said, there's still a ton I'm sure they're going through trying to make sure every I is dotted, T is crossed before they bring charges to make sure that the charges stick. So definitely just props to everybody involved in this investigation.
That is
And
why.
I totally, oh, I'm sorry. I totally agree with
No, go
Thomas
ahead.
on that one. Props to the people that identified that stuff, but it also irritates me that programs are put into place without the foundational construct to limit
Yeah,
the exposure to fraud.
yeah,
And I understand COVID, we didn't plan for COVID, but we should plan for contingencies that could happen and have some sort of an organizational structure in place, because we know this is going to happen every time something happens. We know it happens on the FEMA side all the time. Anytime there's an emergency, they haven't done adequate planning within the organization to set up a control structure that would mitigate. It's not going to eliminate, but mitigate some of the fraud that goes on. And then we're spending the next, look at how many years this has been when this took place. And the indictment came down, what, yesterday? The number of years to take place to now get all the cows back in that ran out of the barn because we had no gates. Not only were they not closed, we didn't even have gates. So I think there's a real short sightedness, and this is more speaking to the audit side than it is the investigation side. Well, that's not necessarily true. The investigation side is always reactive. And if we weren't, we wouldn't be reacting all the time if we were a little more proactive. But we should be focused on that stuff up front. We can't account for everything, but we can have contingencies in place. And I think the government sucks at that. I'm done. That was a sermon. I'm over. I'm done. Sorry.
No,
I don't have
right there
I have
with
no
you.
opinion.
Well, and that's why when you see something, you should say something. Like, again, and I say this all the time. I know we live in this environment where in the hood you say snitches get stitches, and then we translate that into the corporate sector too, when we treat whistleblowers like crap. And it's
yeah.
and then we try to make a distinction. We try to make a distinction. We're not like them. We aren't killing people. Yes, you are. You're killing people's spirit. You're killing people's companies. You're killing people's desire and will to actually work for you. You're killing people's morale. Are you kidding me? Yes, you are. So if you see something, you got to say something. And now Stephanie says, I find all sorts of things on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And she also says that she likes analogies. That's probably why she listens to us, because we always come up with some crazy ones. Mark, you got really good ones. I'm trying to get to the wisdom stage, right? Right now I'm just at the kind of smart stage.
You'll get there. Don't wish for it, man. It sucks. Hey, let me say this about that. Not that I have another opinion, but I'm going to say it anyhow. If you see something, say something, right? I bet you there were employees that saw something in this and brought it to management, and management beat them down because, oh God, this is going to make us look bad, blah, 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 blah. And I guarantee that there had to be internal pressure mounted in order this to get to the point where it was referred outside the agency. They realized they had something they couldn't control. And that's another problem too. Integrity of management, that when you see it, yeah, you're right. The cows are out. The last thing you need to do is try to tell people they aren't out. Just step up and say, okay, we need to address this, because these problems they just, like a rock rolling down the hill. They just keep rolling if somebody doesn't put their foot down and say, that's it.
And Mark, I agree with you, but I would even take it one step further, like one step backwards from that. Even when they were setting up these IT systems, somebody had to say, hey, do we really want to give everybody the keys to the kingdom? Because that's essentially what they did, right? I mean, if people at these levels had this much access, everybody did. Somebody somewhere should have said, hey, that's a bad idea.
That's that planning for contingencies. And you're right. Maybe they did. And what they said was, oh, you know what? It's going to take us more time. We got to get this into place. And, it's going to cost us more money. And then they blew it off, when the one thing you can count on is somebody's going to try to screw your system.
Yeah.
Now, I want to stay where Thomas is for just 1 minute, because I'll take it a step further, and I'm going to do what we hate people to do to us, but where were the auditors? And in all seriousness, let me just take a step back. So during that time period, that is when this particular podcast actually started. And I can recall about 5 different stories where we talked about people were lowering standards. There were systems that didn't work. For example, the state of Kentucky, we knew that their information system wasn't working, and they had to revert back to snail mail because their systems were inadequate. We take the state of Colorado. There were some stories where the governor was saying that he wasn't going to chase down the fraud that they were finding because it would take too long. And he also said, lower the standards for a certain period of time because we just got to get the money in the hands of the people. And I remember saying back then, that's stupid. Is no one not speaking up with this dude? And I know that they have auditors that could have said something, which brings me to tune in to Tuesday's episode of Audit Bites, where the subject is going to be auditors who don't address culture are cowards. Because when the culture's messed up in the organization, you address it 1 or 2 times. If it doesn't work out, you leave, find someplace else to work. Don't sit there and wallow in it, because the longer you stay, you now become culpable in a corrupt organization. Don't give me that, I stayed because I had a family to feed. In the meantime, your moral compass is headed south. That's stupid.
That's exactly right.
Do you have an opinion about that, or are you kind of up in the air about that one? Just wondering.
Kind of up in the air for now. I'll decide later.
I love it. Okay. I think you're dead on right.
Here's my big thing about it. People talk a big talk. If I saw something, I would actually say something. No, you won't, because I actually said something when I saw something. Cost me everything. And then the same people come calling me, it's so bad here. Don't call me. You still have your money. You still have your house. You still have your family. Suck it up and pull up your big boy and big girl draws and go out there and do something. Do the brave thing then too. How about that?
Yep. Exactly right.
Get on, man.
I have no tolerance for that nonsense, because you're comfortable for now, but what happens when that arrow is aimed at you? Now you want to call people, hey, how did you survive this? I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay. So now let's talk about this though. So what did we learn from this case? We learned a few things, right? We learned, 1, vendor oversight matters. Subcontracting does not remove the risk. It actually multiplies it, because now you got to do some monitoring. The next thing we learned is access reviews are so very important. And if you watch out, I'm actually going to be on a podcast on Tuesday where we're talking about the importance of access reviews, but we also are going to introduce, people who follow me, to a system that helps automate your access reviews. And you're going to love it. I'll be posting about that soon too. The other thing we talked about though was nobody should be able to clear their own flags in a system. Come on. So not only should we be looking at system access when people leave, but also what they can do when they have proper access, when they actually should be accessing the system. What roles should they have?
Yeah.
Now, the last thing I think we learned is monitoring. Like, monitoring is important.
Going back to the subcontracting one, that's exactly right. And in this one, it wasn't just one level of subcontracting either. It was subcontracting, then subcontracting, then it was ridiculous right now. And we can say, it was a unique one-off scenario. No, it's not. There are plenty of times where that same thing happens now. So whenever, because as service providers ourselves, we have times where a firm might call us up, hey, can we subcontract through you? And I'm not going to turn down the work. I won't lie, right? But at the same time, though, I'm not going to turn around and subcontract to anybody else. And I have no problem if a client calls me up and says, hey, we really want to use your services. but we have a no subcontracting clause. You have to provide the services. And my response is always, yep, let's do it. So it's perfectly fine with having those type of clauses in your contract. In fact, I encourage it.
I think, Thomas, you're dead on right on that. But I think most of those contracts where they do allow subcontracting, they have very clear clauses in them that say each subcontractor is responsible for monitoring the person under them, that they should be monitoring the system, and nobody above in that chain did crap. So I mean, to me, they're all in violation of that. If you're going to do it, and I agree with you, Thomas, I'm not going to do it. But if I'm going to do it, whoever's working for me better do the same as I do. And I'm going to monitor that. And so shame on them for the integrity in that situation.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
wonder if we're going to hit the point where some of the bigger firms are going to start getting fined for their lack of oversight.
Yeah. Yeah.
well, they should, because let's be frank about this. Absolutely nothing wrong with government contracting. If you've ever done it, and if you ever even looked into it, you'll see they'll have certain amount of monies set aside for small businesses. And there's a reason that they do that, right? Then they'll have certain things where it's just wide open. And bigger doesn't mean better, right? So you'll have some bigger firms have the ability to go and search for these RFPs, request for proposal. They'll have the ability to pay people to write proposals that sound good. And then in their heads, they're like, well, we can just staff it once we win the engagement based on a nicely written proposal and our name.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. That's exactly what they do. It drives us crazy.
Yeah,
we'll
it
figure
really
out
does.
we'll figure out how we can comply with this after we get the contract, and if we have the expertise to do it.
Yeah.
Or we'll hire somebody and pretend we do. It's bull.
Yep.
That's the part. The expertise part, I think, is where it hits the head, because let's just say if you don't have the manpower right now, but you at least have the expertise, you can hire people on a temporary basis to come in if you know what you're doing, you know what to look for, and if you adequately monitor them.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of nonsense, but also here's my other question too, though. Here's what I'm wondering. So the system that they were using, I'm just curious, did they look into the system because was it the fact that the system was not set up properly, or was it the fact that maybe the system wasn't designed properly? Because it's one of those two or a combination. Which one is it? Because if it's one where it wasn't designed properly, you shouldn't be using that system any longer.
Right.
That's a great question. I wonder if they are still using that system, if they put any kind of controls in place with it. So let's put the curtain real quick on the contract proposal side. So Rob, I know you and I have co-bid on government opportunities before, right? And normally you're the one that puts the proposal together because I don't have the patience for it. So whenever you do that, how long does it normally take you to put a standard proposal together for
it? It depends. Yeah, it does. It takes hours. Even with having a template down, it still takes hours because you have to read through the requirements and see what they want, and then try to write it and craft the language to where it fits what they're looking for. And yeah, it takes hours.
Would you say it takes you a good 2 to 3 days, not nonstop, but 2 to 3 days to really put together a proposal for a typical government project that we would be trying to staff?
At least.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yep. And then whenever it comes to just standard, SOX testing, internal audit support, resources, doing the testing, it takes me 30 minutes, maybe an hour, but normally about 30 minutes. Probably you guys about the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And the sad thing about that, and that's a great point, Thomas, is that contract requirement and putting those together is absolutely ridiculous. It's a CYA by that agency in order to protect that process, when in fact where they should be spending that money is monitoring the contract once it's been given out, not spending the time up front of trying to cut people out who could be very good, prospects, but don't have the staff and the legal, staff to put it together. And then they hire somebody that does, and then they don't monitor it, and they wonder why they get screwed over. I mean, that's a continuous problem. It's ridiculous.
And they don't monitor it, and then those same people end up subcontracting it out to
Yep.
the other firms anyway.
Yep.
Yep. So this was an extremely interesting one because I think there were so many failures on so many different levels that were unnecessary. Like, you didn't even have to be a smart criminal with this one.
They
were
almost asking for this to happen.
You know what I talk about more and more. I kind of really immersed myself in this issue of science-based interviewing, which is kind of where that whole field is heading. And one of the things that's in there, and frankly, a lot of this stuff, I sit and look in the mirror and said, you know what, I didn't do it right for a lot of years, and I should have been doing things differently. The thing that's discussed a lot more in this is the subject of red teaming, the concept of when you prepare for an interview or after an interview, you sit down with colleagues, and not mini me's, not people who will tell you what you want to hear, but you sit down with qualified colleagues and you go over it, help to expose biases, help to expose different ways to approach it, and all the rest. This is a case study for significant red teaming by every entity involved, from the investigation side, which some of the dates in there are disturbing to me, going back into the whole thing of how did the federal government, give us this money? How did we disperse this money? Where are we going? There are so many opportunities to look for that, and we don't spend a whole lot of time on it. And then we wonder why we duplicate the same problem over and over again. Well, I mean, come on, get your heads out of the clouds, and sit down and have a discussion and say, okay, where are our vulnerabilities? Where are our weaknesses? What do we need to do? How do we fix this? We need to spend more time in that arena, both as auditors, investigators, policymakers, all the rest.
Well, I don't know how I can follow that up, but there's one thing I want you all. There's one thing I want you all to do for me. So listen, Bob said this has been a fantastic episode. So now, let me just tell you all, for a long time, this podcast was available on all podcasting platforms. And then I removed it because, well, it was a lot of work on me. And I thought I could bring people over to LinkedIn and YouTube. However, we're going back on the podcasting platforms. So some of you, a lot of you are already subscribed. Send this to your friends on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher closed down, I think. Whatever podcasting platform you listen to it on, because one thing for me that's changing is, I know you guys see me all over LinkedIn and you're like, this dude is everywhere. I'm going to be even more everywhere. I want you all to do me a favor. Spread the word about both podcasts, this one, Friday Froster, and Audit Bites. Go to my website and sign up for my newsletter. I had a few hundred articles on my website at one point. So I had a few hundred articles on my website. I'm going back to blogging again because I just like to write. So
because you got bored and you weren't doing enough.
Yeah, I got bored and I wasn't doing enough. So we've got a lot of good things coming for you guys, including some free email courses. All I'm asking for is your email address. You'll get like 7-day courses that help you out. I just dropped the link to sign up for my newsletter in the chat. So take a look at that. Sign up for my newsletter. I've got one coming out on Monday, I think. It's going to make some people mad. It's going to make some people happy, but you can't please everybody. Either way, it's going to be truthful. And let me see. Let's see if I want to tell you guys the title of it. Let me see. Do I want to? Nah, I'll save it. So, Mark and Thomas, what are you guys working on?
Go ahead, Thomas.
I was going to let you go first. I went first last time. You go ahead.
Okay. All right, cool. As I said, I've immersed myself in this arena of science-based interviewing. So I've been working with a lot of different practitioners and researchers and kind of redeveloping. And when you talk about work, it's pretty hard when you redesign an entire curriculum. And I've spent essentially the last year doing that. And as both of you know, I post a ton on LinkedIn. Totally headed in a new direction. Everything I post has references and citations to go along with it. I'm also working on 2 books, which are going to be 2 books in the series of The Weekly Edge. And they are going to be, one of them is going to be in the investigation realm, and the other one's going to be in the wellness and well-being realm, because I think we spend so much time training to our specific responsibility, and we don't holistically take care of the whole person. And from an interviewing perspective, if you are not on your best game, and this goes for auditing, this goes for investigations, if you are not on your best game and you're not well for whatever reason, you can't do that job effectively. And all that does is increase those issues of problems with wellness and well-being. So I do my Monday article blog on interviewing. I do my Wednesday wellness. So you focus in here. Wednesday blog on some sort of health or well-being issue. So the first book, which I'm just about done with, is The Weekly Edge is going to be the series. It's a year-long guide to science-based investigative interviewing. And what I'm doing, and there's no other books out here like this, it's going to be 52 chapters, one for each week. It's going to put a science-based interviewing topic on the table that you're going to be able to read about. And then there's going to be an application section. So it's almost like a workbook too. What are we going to do? How are we going to apply this? How is this going to make a difference in our lives? And then I'm going to do the same thing on the wellness side and put that out. So that's where I'm spending a huge amount of my time now. I don't like to write, Robert, but I'm writing like mad. So
Wait,
thank
and
you
you're
for the time to say
self-publishing
that.
it too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I feel
So
lazy. I feel very lazy right now.
support your self-published authors, people.
Yep. Absolutely right.
I'm hiring people to help me get it out, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to allow anybody to have control over the product that's coming out, because from the discussions I have, this is going to make a difference. It's something you can work on each week and improve how you interview and improve how you live. And we need to improve both those. That's why I ask you guys when I come on here about how you're doing, because that's more important than what you're doing. So thank you.
Ooh-wee, I love it. Thomas, what about you, man? What's happening?
I feel lazy, so I think I'm gonna pull up one of the AI tools and write a book over the weekend. No, it's audit season. Everybody's busy right now, and I actually I've had several people reach out to me lately who have either entered more into the consulting business or consulting world as independent contractors, or recently lost their job, and so they're kind of in between looking for projects. So if you're currently looking, needing some extra headcount for whether it's SOX testing, internal audits, IT audits, whatever, I've got some outstanding, highly experienced resources that are available for that. But other than that, I am mostly focused on 21st century audit, getting the audit leverage and into as many hands as possible, working on IA Stream, our internal audit platform, and really boosting some improvements there, and a few other exciting conversations that we have going on that we're not ready to announce yet, but a lot of great potential that could really benefit our industry soon. So nothing to announce yet, as Rob kind of is shaking his head, but a lot of exciting stuff going on in the background. Rob, I know you're kind of lazy. You don't really do much. What do you got going on, Rob?
Oh, nothing much. I just redesigned and redeployed my website for specific reasons. I'm creating a lot of on-demand courses. I had a few up, but now we're doing a lot more. Starting in January, we're ramping up for it. We're ramping up for our monthly series of workshops where we have people coming together to talk. It's not training. It's training, it's group coaching, it's all in one. our goal is to get us a real good support network. And we're going to see a lot more of that happening. So a lot going on. I'm actually working on a couple of books too. Mark and I talked about that. One of them is going to be a surprise. Let's just say that. One of them is going to be a real surprise, probably a shock. And it's slated to be out around February. I'm taking my time with it. The other one is going to be helpful, but also humorous. And I'm hoping for December on that second one. So
Nice.
well,
hopefully we can encourage a lot of people that are in our industry that do some of the things that we do to keep going at it, right? It's easy to kind of be a little bit down, feel like you're spinning your wheels and not much is going on, but keep at it, keep getting creative, and just keep pushing, right? Don't give up.
yeah. Well, guys, thank you for joining us for
take your own advice on that one, Thomas. You said I feel lazy compared to you. Stand in the mirror and look at the season of life you're in. You've got a lot of other responsibilities, and they're actually far more important. So,
I appreciate it.
be happy where you are and prosper in that. So
I definitely am.
cool.
Definitely, yeah, I am blessed, no doubt about it.
Yep. Sorry to interrupt
got
you.
that
Robert.
right. No, so yeah. Thank you for joining us, you guys. Tune in next week for another interesting tale. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.